In today's day and age, we are surrounded by computers. In fact, they've become an essential part of the team. Now, the advantage to this is that once we learn their language, we can get them to produce that end result that we're looking for. There's no room for misunderstandings, assumptions, or even implied meaning. Wouldn't it be amazing if people functioned in the same manner? Nothing being lost in translation, nothing being miscommunicated. Okay, now our reality is people are complex beings. We're built with minds that are in a constant state of motion. According to the Huffington Post, we process between 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. This means between 35 and 48 thoughts per minute, filtering between our feelings, our heads, and our hearts. That's a ton of information to harness and aim in a single direction to deliver in a clear communication. So what happens when you place a group full of people all trying to express their opinions and thoughts within a department, or a meeting, or even lunch? Potential chaos. Now, our friends at MIT, they recognize this potential danger. They realize that the challenge could really affect teams. In a team environment, it could be detrimental and halt the workflow. Worse off, it could even damage relationships. They began researching how different people communicate their thoughts, and in 1996, they introduced the Communication Styles Instrument. The goal was to forecast when different communication styles could potentially clash in advance, this way to help anticipate certain behaviors and make allowances for them. They determined that the different styles fall into 4 different classifications: action, process, people, and idea. Now here's the good news. There are ways to help identify each of the styles. So let's look at them one by one. Now, for example, action people, they tend to focus on the what. Think of somebody who pops in, clipboard in hand, ready to check a box and has an action plan. They can come across as being impatient, maybe even direct. They're quick to jump from idea to idea. They can appear energetic, sometimes challenging to others. They're driven by results and goals. The conversations often include the topics of performance, responsibility, working ahead, and decisions. Now, when you're working with someone in this style, being as brief as possible is a win. State your best recommendation without offering many alternatives. Visual aids are also very helpful. Next up are the process people. They tend to focus on the how. Think of somebody who shows up, their arms prepared with full data. They've got charts and graphs all about the topic at hand. They can appear systematic, logical, sometimes even unemotional, and maybe even cautious. They're driven by facts, by strategies, and by systems. They talk about things like planning, procedures, and they really like details and proof. To work effectively with these folks, be precise. State the facts. Outlining your proposal is a great idea, as well as providing background. And try not to rush a process-oriented person. They need the space to process. Now, people tend to focus on the who. These are the ones that will show up ready to offer a hug and ask you about your weekend. They can come across as being emotional, spontaneous, and empathetic. They're driven by things like teamwork. Relationships are very important to them, and so is perception. Their conversations include the topics of people, motivation, values, and understanding. Now, to communicate with this style, allow for small talk. Don't jump right into the discussion. Show how an idea has worked well in the past, and use an informal style when possible. Last up are the idea people. They focus on the why. Visualize somebody who appears to, not be engaged because they're thinking. They can come across as being full of ideas, charismatic, and maybe even difficult to understand. They're driven by things like concepts, theories, and innovation. Their conversations include the topics of what's new, possibilities, improving, and alternatives. Now, to communicate with this style, allow enough time for the discussion to take place. Don't get impatient with them when they go off on tangents, and try and relate to the topic to maybe a broader concept or idea. Emphasizing future value is also a win. So here's the thing. This is a lot of information, but here's what's important to note. It's not about changing your message. It's about maybe changing the way you frame it. ask yourself, how can I accommodate other styles represented around me? What does effective communication look like across all 4 styles? Imagine the possibilities if you were able to foresee challenges with clashing styles amongst your team. Now, are you curious to find out what your style is? I know you are. The Communication Assessment Instrument, along with all this information and even more, can be found attached within this lesson. Take the time, answer the questions, and maybe even do it as a team building experience. We hope that you find it to be revealing and insightful. Thank you.